Hello, and welcome to the Journal Star Sportswriters podcast. I'm your host, Adam Duvall, joined always by small school football beat writer Stan Morris, sports editor Wes Huett.
Hello.
We're here to recap Week 9 and then dive into the playoffs. First round, opening round.
It's here.
We'll put that on pause for a minute, but we'll go over Week 9, what we learned. Just as kind of we thought, Dunlap and Morton. Dunlap.
What a game, yeah.
Yeah, 36, Morton 34.
And again, if I recall, you were again correct. We both went Morton and you went Dunlap. And I think I may even said, now I feel like Dunlap's going to win.
right.
You did that with Limestone, I think.
Yeah.
Once,
Yep,
and
I did that with Limestone.
Yeah. Those Doobie knows.
So our guy Tag Gramp, game tying, or not game tying, but touchdown with 14 seconds left. Morton decides to go for two. Isaiah Curry, Shane O'Brien, Ken Johnson. They get the stop. Dunlap seemed to be cruising. They were up 28-13.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, these teams are they're hard to really pin down how good they are. I mean, like I said, both of them kind of struggled against the two powers of the conference. Had a great game against each other. They both go into the playoffs. Of course, they both have to go on the road. Kind of a tough draw for them, just the way the numbers shake out in their respective classes. But yeah, it's weird. I think they both could lose those games, and they could both win. Honestly, there's just that kind of enigmas in a way. I think Dunlap may be a little more dynamic than Morton is, and that makes them dangerous, like we've talked about with the Farmingtons of the world compared to the Elmwoods, that type of thing, where they have more ways to win. And so
now that Dunlap is in the playoffs, how much did last year's run?
It has to help. I mean, I would think any of the guy. I mean, Miles Burke, quarterback. I mean, he played in the state title game. Only
before he got hurt.
Right. Yeah. Only 16 quarterbacks do that every year, so it's certainly experience that, and the coach himself too. Caslett is plenty playoff tested. Got to go on the road to a pretty tough Yorkville team, though. That was a tough draw for them.
Yeah. Stan, you were out in Chillicothe. You saw IVC become playoff eligible after starting 1-4. They beat Olympia 34-14. What did you see from Tim Hines and the guys?
Well, kind of one of those slow starts, it was 7-7. They're into the second quarter, but they were able to get a couple touchdowns, in that second quarter. And then Alex Merlot had a couple nice touchdown passes in the third quarter that really opened it up for them, and they were able to really kind of control that game after Olympia was able to score. Olympia was able to run on them a little bit, but IVC's defense was kind of held that back after a while. And Olympia put the ball on the ground 3 times. They lost fumbles, and IVC recovered 3 fumbles, got an interception. So those kind of things always, make a difference. And IVC was able to get that 5th win. They were pretty excited about it. So, yeah.
The other thing is, IVC is one of those teams where I would love to have seen that they'd have stolen a couple of those games earlier in the year and had a better standing going into the playoffs, because they're playing really well right now, and it's tough. They got to go up against an unbeaten Taylorville team.
Right.
Where if they were a 6-3 or 7-2, maybe I think they could advance a little bit. I mean, it seems a team that's playing really well right now.
Yeah, and Taylorville's coach is pretty impressed with what he's seen on film from IVC too. So
yeah, they have to think the opposite way. Like to Taylorville's thinking, oh geez, we got to play a team that's won 4 games in a row.
Right.
Not many 5-4s have won 4 games in a row.
Right.
So.
Right.
We had Washington finish off a perfect regular season, limit East Peoria's offense to 82 yards. Princeville, they got their 9-0.
They were after that 9-0, and they got it done. Yeah.
Did you talk to Coach Crothers?
I did. Not specifically really about this game, because I know that again, they had another nice one from Adam Snedden, and that defense actually gave up 12 points, so that's a shocker, right?
Double digits.
Double digits, and that's first team to get the double digits on them was Week 9. Wow. But But then again, I think Princeville's defense has shown that they're really going. And he's really Coach Carruthers really pleased with how their offense is progressing too. We've talked a lot about that defense, but the offense keeps getting a little bit better too. So they're in a good shape. Got that #1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were after.
Yeah.
Farmington wrapped up their perfect season, beating Knoxville 38-26. They trailed 6-0 early and had 26 unanswered.
A lot higher scoring game than I thought it would be, I think.
Yeah. And again, they have that, like we talked about, that diverse offense,
Right.
and the speed was really the big factor in that game. That their Farmington's speed, they were just so much quicker than Knoxville, and Toby talked about the fact that their defensive line was able to get the job done against Knoxville's offensive line, which is a big veteran offensive line, but Farmington's D-line was able to make the push to help them get over the hump on that one, and a really nice kind of playoff mode type of game to get them going into the playoffs. Really a tough opponent in Week 9 rather than somebody that you beat 49-0, right. In Week 9.
Absolutely.
So that's good for them.
Metamora wrapped up an 8-1 regular season, beating Canton 47-6. I think the big note from this game is Thomas Hall did not play. I'm told he has a broken finger on his non-throwing hand, which against Canton Week 9, I'm not sure you need. Well,
right.
you don't need him.
Yeah, probably a precautionary thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would have.
Out at the stadium, Notre Dame 55, Danville 22. A game that the Irish really had to have.
Yeah, they did. They were 5-3, but they had to win that game to get in. Because had they lost that, I believe they were out because they would have had to have had Richwoods, Peoria High, and Lockport, 2 of their 3 wins, and I don't think any of them did. So they were out if they lost that game. So they're similarly to IVC, they're playing really, really well right now. And, unfortunately, they got a tough draw with Normal West.
Right.
That's a really tough draw.
Absolutely.
It seems like a lot of our teams got the numbers
really
didn't go their way when it comes to the ISSA and the draw. A lot of tough matchups, even with the good records. I mean, Farmington, we'll talk about it later, but yeah, it's just some tough draws.
Mm-hmm.
Eureka wraps up their first 8-win season since '86, beating Tri-Valley 21-14. Matt Martin had a go-ahead touchdown to Jonah Hahn in the third quarter.
That's a great win for them. I mean, Tri-Valley, really good team, and to be able to, to go to their place and get a win like that. Obviously, they're just really excited about getting that 8th win to get a home playoff. This is their first home playoff game since 1989.
Okay.
So they're
that's what he's been preaching.
Yeah.
We had Pekin beating Limestone, Champaign Central beat Manual, Normal Community beat Peoria High, GCMS blanked DMAC. Tremont got its 5th win, but that wasn't able to get them in. Mm-hmm. Abington Avon beat the Heights. On to close calls. We had Illini West 28, Elmwood Brimfield 16. Elmwood was up 16-12 heading to the 4th quarter, and they had a goal line stand and fumbled, and Illini West, scored 3.
Scored 2 touchdowns and got the 2-point conversion on both of those to get those 16 points in that 4th quarter. And actually, Todd Hollis was really pleased with really overall the way his team played against them. I mean, held down
the whole line of West to 12 points in 3 quarters.
That's the least they've scored all year. And so it was just a few plays here or there. I mean, it looks like 28-16, but they were right in there in the 4th quarter with that one. So
And your heart kind of goes out for Elmwood. I mean, they're 6-0 entering week 7 against Farmington. They lose to Farmington, Knoxville, and Illini West.
And then they get a home game in the playoffs.
Yeah, they do get. Yeah,
and that's why they get a home game. It's because of that that schedule, and that was
right. Just one thing, Wes. Let's start with you.
I'm gonna go with. I mean, I know we kind of usually this one thing has to do with the last week, but I'm going to go into the playoffs. These two matchups we have coming up, I mean, I was just pretty – this Joliet Catholic's going to take on Metamora, and Providence is going to take on Washington. I mean, talk about 4 incredible programs. The one thing is the number of playoff appearances between all 4 of those teams.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Joliet Catholic and Metamora have combined 73 playoff appearances.
Gosh.
And JCA and Providence and Washington have a total of 68 combined. I would just – they're all 4 of them are in the top 16 all time. And Washington's the lowest. They're tied for 16th all time in the state, number of playoff appearances. So those four matchups.
You think that would be a semifinal type thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
in
teams
fact,
would actually
played Providence in a state title twice,
right?
And JCA twice in a state title. Yeah, it's again, I'm sure there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. I want to talk about setting up teams to fail or Catholic and private and all that stuff, but I mean, I have a story coming out in this Friday's Journal Star you can read about the IHSA selection process and breaking down what they look, and it's purely objective. It's numbers. I mean, JCA and Providence are 5-4, and Metamora Washington are 8-1 and 9-0. That's just the way it works. And obviously, not every 5-4 is created equal, but it is what it is. So,
well, and I mean. The wins. I mean, they go by playoff points, which translates to wins on your schedule. I mean,
they don't. I mean, there's a little bit of subjectivity and maybe splitting the state. That's really about it. But that's what I noticed. Those weekend matchups that were announced were pretty surprising.
Oh yeah.
Stan, how about you? Did you have just one thing? Note, fact, quote, stat.
Mine was kind of going to be on that. We just kind of touched on that. Elmwood Brimfield 45 playoff points, and that's a huge number there. And you get 25 of those in your last 3 games, against. And so certainly the thing that helped them. And I know they're really not used to 6-3, right? That's the first time since 2010, I think, that they were 6-3, I believe, in 2010. So the Elmwood faithful are kind of sad about that and maybe frustrated with that. But you look at who those 3 losses came to, and the fact that they were just right there in all of those teams, really, for the most part. So.
And honestly, the way it shook out, they have to be pretty to get a home game, because really home game is the big thing, and then play another team who's 6-3 as opposed to getting 7-2 or thing like that. So it really worked out about as well as it could for them.
Yeah, certainly they don't. I mean, we'll talk maybe a little bit about that, who they're playing. A little bit, which is not an easy team to start out with either. But yeah, like I say, you get a home game and you get a 6-3.
My just one thing was 18, and that's the number of 5-4 teams to not qualify for the playoffs. That was the highest number since 2014, when 22 didn't make it, and only one of 2 5-4 teams with 38 playoff points made the field.
Yeah, because then when they tie that way, then they go to the next one, which, in my opinion, I think, in all honesty, when it comes to I like using the playoff points to get in the playoffs. And then if obviously you have to break a tie, they go to the combined number of wins of the teams you beat, as opposed to. I think once the seeding begins, though, I mean, I honestly think that the combined number of wins of the teams you beat, honestly, is a little more indicative of the strength of your team, as opposed to, especially if you. Obviously, I know teams who win 6 games are going to have more than the people who win 5. But maybe if you average it, I just think that sort of just having good teams in your schedule doesn't necessarily show the quality of your team. But that's just a myriad of things that the IHSA puts into account to pick their teams.
Well, let's dive into the playoffs.
Here we are.
256 teams left. They'll be playing Friday night. They'll be playing Saturday afternoon and into the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and start with Friday night. Bounce back to Princeville. Polo at Princeville, 7 p.m. Friday night.
Gotta love the Marcos, right? Polo Marcos, one of the best nicknames out there. Yeah. Bob Levitt gave me a hard time for not mentioning that. So how can you write something about polo and not have Marcos in there?
Yeah, right. It's like writing about Fisher and not mentioning the bunnies or Centralia and the orphans.
Yeah. But they come out. I mean, they're 5-4, but they come from a really tough conference, and Northwest Upstate Illini conference that just seems to churn out, state champions and state semifinalists and that kind of thing all the time. So they've had a good schedule. So Princeville's not thinking it's going to be a cakewalk for them in first round here, but they're certainly in a good spot, and nice to get that play at their place. And so they kind of have got a kid who's thrown for 800 yards and also run for some yards. Got a quarterback that can do kind of both things on polo. So they'll have to be mindful of that quarterback there. So
I'll just say it right now. I think Princeville wins by like 5 touchdowns.
Whoa.
Oh.
IVC goes.
We'll take that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He'll even be okay if Polo scores 12.
Right.
And they get into double digits. How dare they?
I don't know. 2 in a row. I don't know.
2 in a row.
Defense will be doing some push-ups.
Running.
IVC travels to Taylorville. They have a tough task. Number 1 seed Taylorville, 9-0. Come out of the Apollo. They were the champs there.
Right.
They had 1 game within single digits, week 8 against Mount Zion.
Team that's 4th ranked in the state. A team that has a quarterback who's thrown for over 2,600 yards and run for 600 or 700 yards as well. So really good. I mean, that's a familiar opponent. They played them a few years ago, home and home series, so they know that team. But it's been a team that's been really good for several years now. And so, yeah, that's a tough little road trip and to get to go there. So.
Wes, let's bounce over to New Lenox Providence at Washington.
All right.
One of New Lenox Providence, they're 5-4. One of their losses, that was a forfeit to Mount Carmel in week 7.
Other things that have sort of just bounced Providence into Washington, just the numbers. I mean, I'm not saying they beat Mount Carmel if they play that game, but obviously they could. And, they forfeited the game. The Van Dyke verdict was the night before, and Providence said, we don't feel like it's safe to travel over there. And regardless whether or not, whatever opinion you have of that, they did it. And Mount Carmel said, no, we want to play. And Providence said, we're not coming over. And so they forfeited. Again, they won that game. They're 6-3, and they're somewhere else. And so just many number of factors that – and Providence that's a great team. I mean, they play 8A competition. Some of their scores, I mean, they only lost to Brother Rice, who's one of the best teams in 8A, 20-0. They play Mount Carmel, they play Montini, or they didn't play Mount Carmel, they play Montini, Loyola. I mean, they made the semifinals last year at 5-4. And honestly, I could see them doing that again. I mean, it's a tough matchup for Washington.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna have to see, especially from Caleb Fisher.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Washington fans that have seen all 9 games are going to see Caleb Fisher throw the ball.
Oh, they're going to have to.
They're going to see. They're going to see him. They're going to see him run. They're going to see Sam Walter. They're going to see, Cole Ludoff. I mean, this is like a quarterfinal, semifinal game.
Yes. Pat Ryan said it when he was playing Washington about the tool shed or the toolbox or whatever. Washington's going to have to call an engineer to make up a tool to be Providence. I mean, they get them at home. That helps. I mean, the atmosphere is going to be electric, I think. So, and again, Washington's a really talented team. It's just they really haven't had to show it, to be honest. Like the Metamora games, Stan, you were there. I mean, that's the most they've really had to work to win a game, and they win by 2 touchdowns. So they're going to be in a dogfight on the lines. I mean, Providence is big and nasty and play teams that punch them in the mouth every week.
And they don't have any guys that go both ways.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great program, and obviously this is what you want to play. You necessarily don't want to play them in the first round, but if Washington thinks they can win the 6A state title, they're going to have to beat teams like this.
Right. You're going to have to face it.
Yeah, it sucks that you play them in the first round. I get it. But you know what? You win this, though, and you're a force. I mean, well, of course, they could play SHG in the second round, so there you go. Nice draw. That's just the way. I mean, it's just, numbers broke the wrong way for the Panthers, but you know what? You got to play them sometime. So,
one of the more intriguing games that Friday night is Notre Dame at Normal West. And granted, the Irish lost in week 1 to them 44-13, but Notre Dame is a different team.
Oh, completely different. Yeah, they found their what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. They found their identity, I guess. I mean, they're kind of. And Normal West has shown the propensity to allow some points, so I feel like this is going to be a shootout. Whether or not they can win it, I don't know, but it certainly won't be 30 points again. That's for sure.
Our last area game on Friday night is Dunlap going to Yorkville. Yorkville is 7-2, much like Dunlap. Yorkville's 2 losses came to Sycamore, 28-27 in week 5, and DeKalb, who's 8-1, 31-0 in week 8, and Sycamore is 7-2. I mean, Dunlap, it's one of those 7-2, 7-2.
Yeah, I mean, both Yorkville. To be honest, Yorkville's a little similar to. I mean, we talked a little bit comparing Morton and Dunlap earlier. They both play teams that honestly, I mean, Yorkville's a tough. They're up and coming. They got a 4th-year coach, Dan McGuire, who's starting to turn things around there. Dunlap, I think maybe they're a little earlier in their turnaround than Dunlap is, but they're on the road. That's tough to go up there. And Yorkville is just a nice program. It's going to be a really tough spot for them. They run the ball well. They try to get some things going with their passing game, but this past week they struggled. But yeah, again. Dunlap has the weapons, and sometimes it's so hard to match up these Central Illinois teams because there's not a lot of overlap when it comes to teams playing each other and seeing the same teams, and it's kind of hard to tell how good a team is when they play these big conferences. So it's like everyone sort of plays each other, and you really don't get an idea of how good someone is because they don't step out of their conference that often.
Right. You have these 10-team leagues, and
it's interesting. This is what you want in the playoffs. Honestly, I mean, as much the Notre Dame Normal West thing is kind of an aberration. It's more often that you get these cross-state games, and I think that's what you want. You want to test yourself and see where you're at.
I think probably 5, 8, maybe even 10 years ago and maybe even during that stretch, it seemed like it was a mini Mid-Illini tournament.
Yes,
for a lot of those years.
Especially when they had quadrants, when they would split the state, each of the 8 classes into basically 4 little 8-team tournaments that were all regionalized. Those would be a Washington Morton in the first round, and the winner would get the winner of Metamora against somebody or whatever. And I don't know how. I mean, I guess you can see both sides of that argument. Certainly, what they have now beats what they did prior to '94, which they didn't even seed the thing at all. Which is basically it was all. They had no regard to how good you were or your record, or it was all about geography. And basically, they kind of just put you where you thought you could play and go play games and put them into a bracket. And the seeding process is only a couple decades old, and they're tweaking it every year. They finally settled into this sort of 2 halves for the smallest 6 classes, and then 7 and 8 are strictly seeded 1 to 32.
Yeah.
So that's just there's no subjectivity there at all. It's the biggest 32 playoff teams in 8A. Number 1 plays number 32, 2 plays 31, so on. So there's really, and even in the ones where they split it, there's little amount of subjectivity. Not a ton. I mean, they're basically splitting the state by geography. And you have some interesting spots like Providence is sort of in the southern half, so to speak, in 6A, even though they're a northern school. But I mean, New Lenox is not exactly like the North Shore. I mean, they're down by the Joliet area and I think so. You're going to have to pull some of those teams down. Yeah, and again, once you pull those 16 in, it's by wins and by playoff points. And Washington is the second team among those, and Providence is number 15, and that's just the way it works out. There was no like, oh, that'd be a good matchup, so we'll move Providence here and JCA here to Metamora, and
a lot of people don't understand.
No, they don't. They think there's monkey business and like this sort of gerrymandering of any. There's not. It's complete. Any randomness at all would be there's a computer program written, and there is a few cases like Princeville is a good example. Princeville and Ottawa Marquette were both 9-0, and both played teams that had a combined 38 wins. Okay, so once you break through those, now had they been in a situation where they were getting into the playoffs, then they would go deeper into the tiebreakers. Considering it's just a seed issue, it's literally the computer. Princeville as easily could have been a 2 as they were a 1 there. The computer just literally randomly selected them to be the top seed versus Ottawa Marquette, because on paper they're exactly the same team. 9-0 with 38 playoff points, period. And it just happened to work out the way it was. So that's the only sort of, and that's not even subjective. That's completely randomly selected by the computer. The subjectivity literally is only splitting the state, is where Sam Knox, who's the administrator for football, draws that line.
Yeah.
And really, in those cases, too, there's an objective process into where he draws that line, which is he's not going to, like, send a team that's 50 miles further south to the north. It's going to be a situation where, like, there's a Sterling versus a Chicago Vocational who are literally so close to the latitude. Like, they showed me this, I went over there on Monday, showed me this model of an older, it's not the current playoff system, but Sterling was in it and Vocational was in it. And if you put Vocational in the southern bracket, then they went to Carbondale, and then Rich East, I believe, went to Marion. So you get 2 like 4 or 5 hour trips. But if you flip it and put Vocational in the north and Sterling in the south, those trips are gone. So it's those types of things where teams are really close on the latitude line, like a Quincy Notre Dame and a Kelowna Unity, like who may be in 4A or something. And they're like, well, if we put one here, then all the trips are a lot shorter than we are here. And to Sam, it's just dots on a map. He doesn't care that it's Quincy Notre Dame or Unity, or if it's Sterling or if it's Vocational. It's just that's what it is. And those little flips happen, but beyond that, it's all numbers.
That's an interesting process. I'm looking forward to reading.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Big slate of games on Saturday, Stan.
Sure are.
Let's start with Princeton at Elmwood Brimfield. Princeton is only giving up, a little under 12 points a game. They have 3 shutouts, giving up 3 points once and 6 points twice. So
right, and they're coached by Ryan Pearson, who was at Canton. It's his second year there. Kind of, they struggled in the first year of putting that system in, wing T system that they had at Canton, and then second year, now they're 6-3, and they've got a pretty good thing going, and that's so that's an interesting matchup. I know that Elmwood is certainly going to have to pay attention. It was funny. I was talking to Todd, and they counted that Princeton has 38 different formations. 38 different. They do a lot of the same things out of them, but they show you 38 different things.
Wow.
And Todd's like, okay, and we have one.
I was gonna say, how many does Todd have? Yeah. Well, we have to have one. So.
Yeah. quite a dichotomy there of how many different formations. So they're going to have to be able to just make sure you're on point as to what your assignments are, kind of thing, and and that kind of thing. So. Yeah, but good to be home for Elmwood.
I bet. And another team that'll be hosting a game will be Eureka. Touched on a little bit. They play Chicago Inglewood, 14 seed, 5-4. Inglewood lost 2 of its last 3. They have a win. They won a game 6-2. They have a 12-6, and they also lost 12-7. What did what do you see from the Hornets?
I think obviously that town's going crazy for really all of the fall sports. I mean, you think about what's going on in Eureka and in the fall here, and so much success in cross country. And
are they good at cross country? I don't know.
Yeah, they might be. Forever.
Yeah, no kidding.
But they have a paint the town green kind of challenge going on in
cool.
Eureka. So they're trying to get everybody, to put lights out to the green, signs, and, just get to play. So they painted the street, right in front of the school with these little footballs that have hornets in them, leading all the way up to the stadium. And so there's a lot of excitement for this game. And Inglewood is a team that they don't know a whole lot about. They've seen some film on. They see that they've got a pretty, elusive quarterback that they'll have to make sure it does they don't lose track of him. But they just have to play their game, is what Jason Bachman was like. Okay, we just got to do what we do, and hopefully that takes care of itself in that game. But yeah, there's plenty of excitement in Eureka.
Stan, a third small school game on your slate. Farmington hosting Greenville. Greenville's coming off a 66-0 loss to Carlinville, who a lot of people like Carlinville across the state to be playing on the last 2 days of the season. Yeah. Farmer's got to be, it's what, 3 consecutive
9-0
seasons,
right, and getting that home again. And Greenville is as traditionally they've been in the playoffs quite a bit here lately too. It's a team that is one of the guys that covers them says that they are run oriented, but their quarterback also threw for 500 yards one week, so they have that capability. And Toby's like, they've got to control that passing game. They can't let it get out of control like that, 500 yards again. So he thinks that this is a team that's going to be hard for them to, hold down as far as, this could be a shootout. And Farmington's well equipped to play a shootout.
Yes,
they are. Absolutely. Yeah, so no doubt about that.
He thinks, okay, if they're going to score, we've got some weapons there that can get that done too. So, yeah, this game could be a high-scoring game.
Wes, 9 seed Morton. This is in 5A, 6-3 at 8 seed Decatur MacArthur, 6-3. Decatur MacArthur has lost to Rochester, Chatham Glenwood, and Sacred Heart Griffin.
Right.
But those wins, they haven't really come against teams with.
No, they have one win over a team with a winning record. Springfield, they beat 8-6, first game of the season, but we know how that goes. Mm-hmm. I mean, Springfield turned around and beat SHG this season too. Mm-hmm. So beating Springfield High is nothing to sniff at. But it's kind of funny. I was doing the research on MacArthur, and I'm like, well, they only beat one team with a winning record. And then I turn around and look at Morton, and they beat no teams with a winning record. So honestly, I think that it's just kind of both programs kind of want to show themselves. I mean, Morton had a chance to get one with Dunlap, and they didn't. They've lost to Dunlap, Metamora, and Washington, the 3 teams with winning records on their schedule, and haven't beaten anybody else. But certainly show that they can score. Both these teams can score a little bit. Again, this similar to the Yorkville Dunlap thing. It's just kind of hard to haven't really stepped outside their zones. And honestly, I think Dunlap's got a little. I don't know if you put the two on a meter, like which one is more likely to win their game. I don't know. I think Dunlap, but MacArthur to me, because Mark to me, they've shown up a little bit. I know how good Rochester and SHG are, and they certainly hung with. It was a 22-14 loss to Rochester. SHG was a little wider spread there, and they got the win over Springfield, so they have their bona fides. So it's a situation where I think if I had to, I kind of like Decatur in this a little bit. They're at home too. Morton is getting back in the playoff. It just feels like Decatur's kind of got some things going there a little further along than Morton. But
then the finale that we'll talk about for the first round, 14 seed Joliet Catholic at third seed Metamora 8-1, 6 p.m. Saturday. Should note JCA 5-4. Their losses are to Elmhurst IC Catholic.
Everybody loses to them. They are very, very good.
Right. Yep.
They're the middle version of GCMS. I mean, they just sort of destroy everyone in their classes and play up. They play better teams even. And
state champion last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They lost to Marist, they lost to Bennett, and they lost to Nazareth.
Yeah, that's a murder. They beat Niles Notre Dame, which I believe is their only win over a team with a winning record. They're kind of starting to turn things around. Missed the playoffs last year, back in it barely this year. This isn't your father's Joliet Catholic team, to be honest. Still very, very good. But I think this is a game, if Metamora doesn't turn it over, does what it does best, runs the ball, controls the clock, they can win this game. They're equipped to win this game. And in fact, I think it goes a little bit to like, I remember when Pat Ryan would tell me when Metamora were struggling, they never got a break because every team that comes into Malone Field or sees the birds on the helmet think that all this Metamora, we're just going to, and the teams play their best. And I think JCA is seeing that now too, where they're struggling to get the talent back, and they never get a break though. I mean, you go to Joliet Catholic, you're like, this is Joliet Catholic. It's still, to other people, they don't see that maybe your talent is down a little bit. And similarly, I think Metamora and Malone's going to be rocking. The Hill Towers are coming in, and they're going to get an A game from Metamora, and an A game from a good team already is dangerous. I like Metamora in this game. I just think it's a matter of minimizing the mistakes, which kind of hurt them in their loss to Washington. Mm-hmm. If they're doing that, what they did against Washington, if they're giving them dropping touchdown passes potentially, or turning the ball over, or allowing kickoff returns or things like that, obviously a 5-4 team that's tested, the Joliet Catholic can win. And again, it's similar to the Washington game. This is like a quarterfinal matchup when it comes to looking at the talent on the field.
That is the little bit of a preview for 2 days of playoffs for the first round. We'll head to picks. Last week, Morton, Farmington, and Illini West for Wes and Stan. Myself, I picked Dunlap, Farmington, Illini West. I'm 14-1. Stan is 11-4. Wes is 10-5. We'll go with the picks. We're going to go 4 this week. We have 2 bonus, but the first we'll go Dunlap, Yorkville. Stan, give me a pick and tell me why.
Oh man, I may go with. I go with Yorkville on this one. It's tough to go on the road like that. You never know. 9 and 8s. I mean, they're certainly evenly matched there. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to go. I can't give you a real good reason as to why. But
Yorkville for Stan. Okay. Wes, how about you? Dunlap, Yorkville?
I like Dunlap here. It's going to be a close one. I just feel like they're kind of turning the corner a little bit. They had that little combo, Washington and Mora, kind of got their nose bloodied a little bit, bounced back against Morton. And then the bugaboo for Dunlap, like back in the old days under like the Tannies and the Aldermans, was not getting playoff wins. Like getting to the first round and losing, but with Caslett, it's kind of been the like Caslett is a pretty good playoff house coach, and I like the way he prepares. I like the way that he tends to sort of basically suit a game plan that they're diverse enough talent wise that they can do more. So I like how they can kind of game plan against a specific opponent, and so they're kind of playing with a little bit of a chip right now, I think. So I like Dunlap here in a close, like a 28-24, 20-26 type of game.
I like Dunlap to win. Lots of experience, and I think experience pays dividends, especially in the playoffs.
Yep.
Stan, Princeton at Elmwood Brimfield. Give me a pick and tell me why.
I'm going to go with the Trojans. I just think that they have the defense that's going to be able to stop them, and I know that they, the experience that they've gotten in the last, several weeks, and I mean they're obviously a very talented team that can run the ball and have a chance also to pass. So I'm going to give Elmwood the nod in that one going forward.
Wes, who do you like? Princeton, Elmwood? Give me a pick. Tell me why.
Elmwood. Yeah, I got to take Todd Hollis's. I'm kind of like Stan with the Dunlap Yorkville thing. Really don't know why. I just like Elmwood here, home too. I don't know. I just feel it feels like it's gonna be a short game. I mean, that's one of the. How many passes are going to be thrown in that game?
Not going to be 4? A whole lot. Yeah.
Over-under's 3.5. I'm setting it on passes.
Henry Lampy is going to have at least 2 of those catches.
Yeah. The quarterback will be like 2 for 3, and then Lampy will be 2 for 112 with two touchdowns or something like that. It's going to be a quick game. I like Elmwood's line too. I got to think that they have a little better up front than Princeton is. I mean, that's just a complete more going on the tradition than anything else. But.
I'm going with Elmwood Brimfield. I mean, I think Week 9 against Illini West, allowing them 12 points through 3 quarters is huge for the confidence of that defense.
That's the thing when you get good coaches, and that's kind of what I meant with Caslett too. Is good coaches can motivate and build off of losses. More than I think that's so big. I mean, good coaches know losses while obviously you don't want them in the playoffs, but late in the regular season against good opponents can be huge things. They could wake up your kids, especially. I mean, they can be like, "Oh yeah, my God, I didn't listen to what he said, and that's what happened. We lost." So, I mean, you might be able to play exactly the same way in a win versus you did a lot, and your kids might learn more from the loss than they do from the win.
Right, and that's kind of what Todd had talked about that as far as, you get in games like they've played, you get a chance to see, okay, what are the things that we need to correct going into the playoffs rather than seeing it in the playoffs and having to correct those things on the fly. So, being able to make those changes.
I would assume these 3 games exposed pretty much everything that Elmwood is bad at. If anything, maybe they are. Maybe they're great at a lot of things, but the things that, and it's a lot easier for Todd to go, see, you didn't do these, and we lost 3 games in a row. So
right, and they'll make those adjustments.
All right, we have 2 bonus games. We have New Lenox Providence at Washington, Joliet Catholic at Metamora.
Public-private bonus, double bonus.
Double bonus. Stan, let's get both of your picks.
Both picks.
Both picks.
All right. I'm going Panthers. I know that's a real tough draw for them, but that experience that they've got, home crowd, maybe getting a score and a touchdown early, and getting things going their way as far as the crowd really getting into it, and and again, like you mentioned before, that experience is huge when you come into the playoff time. So I'm going Panthers.
Wes, I'm gonna only take one. Stan.
Oh, okay.
All right. I'm going back.
All right.
Wes, New Lenox, Providence, Washington.
Washington is like it's like a muscle car that you haven't had to put in fifth gear yet. Like I don't know if they have it. That's why I want like, do they have that? If they can play better than they've played, they can beat Providence. Again, maybe Crouch knows. Maybe he's seen it in practice. Maybe he's seen it like when they might have gotten better games when their ones are playing each other than they've gotten on the field this season. But I don't know. Washington's they gave up a few points to Morton. They've shown that but again, Providence is a defensive heavy team too, though. They've only given them 15 points a game this year. I love Washington. I'm pulling for them, but I think Providence wins a close one here. I just think, kind of like with Elmwood. I mean, this team is tested. They're playing 8A competition, 7A, 8A competition all year. Again, I would not shock me if Washington wins this game. It's a 52-48 type of thing. If you had to put a meter on it, again, and being at home might flip it. To be honest, being at home and like he said, if you get a turnover, if you get something early, but I like Providence in a really, really tight one.
I'm going Providence too. I think their strength of schedule, especially. I mean, who they've played and what they've seen will be huge for them. Stan, Joliet Catholic at Metamora, our other bonus this week.
All right, I got 2 against you guys so far, right? Should I go for 3 in a row? Different than you guys? Actually, I'm going Redbirds. I think given that Thomas Hall is good to go and, that kind of thing.
Is he?
I don't know.
We shall
Other
see.
than he did not play last week.
That feels like some gamesmanship out of
No, but I think, I'm going Metamora to get the job done there. Maybe Thomas Hall has a really good game. And
I'm one of those things where if I'm Pat Ryan, I certainly don't let anyone know how Thomas Hall is doing. He had a shoulder last week, so kind of like Brady with the Patriots. They always like to put him as questionable shoulder every week. I like the Redbirds in this. Again, they got to minimize the mistakes. That's kind of been their bugaboo over the years in big games. Like if they can minimize those mistakes, they can win. And like I said, this is the JCA of old. This is a team that's beatable. They've played some decent competition, but again, they haven't really hung in those games. So being at home again, it's another one of those coin flips. A 60-40 game. I like Metamora though.
I'm going Metamora too. I think being at home, missing the playoffs last year,
right?
They're hungry to show.
So did JCA though. So
yep, that's true. That's true. All right, our final regular season week 9 of PJ Star Fantasy Football. I actually won week 9 thanks to 53.5 points. Hayden Brock gave me 25.2. He had 19 rushing yards, 286 through the air with 3 touchdowns. The stack, the IVC stack.
Riding it.
My guy Ethan Kemp, 100 rushing yards and a touchdown, gave me 16. Alex Fulton, he caught 63 yards and another touchdown for 12.3. Wes, 51.3. Caleb Fisher gave him 8.8 points, 116 passing and a touchdown pass. Caden Buster, you were calling it. You're calling it. 113 rushing, 3 touchdowns for 29.3. Jarrett Kreider, he had 72 rushing and a TD for 13.2. Stan, you had 31 points. Matt Martin gave you 16.2, 15 rushing yards, 174 passing, 2 TD passes. Austin Iger had 10.6. He had 32 rushing, 14 receiving, and a TD. Cole Ludoff, 42 receiving yards for 4.2 points. All right, Stan, who's your quarterback this week? And it resets, so any players that you've maybe used previously, you can use them for the playoffs, but once you use them, you lose them. All right, Stan, your quarterback?
Well, I have written down here Thomas Hall as my quarterback, but then the old broken finger thing is like, okay, should I change that or should I not change that? I'm gonna stick with him, I guess.
Look at that,
Thomas Hall.
Stick with the guy.
All right, Wes, how about you?
Give me Matt Martin. I actually don't think I used him in the regular season, to be honest. So I feel like they're gonna roll over there, and the Martin is kind of one of those dual threat guys. So even if they do win big, he's gonna be running the ball a lot.
Right.
So if he has to pass some, if it ends up Inglewood can score a little bit, and they got to win like a 55-20 game, Matt Martin's gonna be involved somehow. So.
Yeah, he was going to be my fallback guy. I was going to say I'm going to go with him 2 weeks in a row, but yeah.
I'm going Caleb Fisher. I think Wes, you touched on the Pat Ryan quote about the toolbox, and we've kind of yet to see him, throw the ball 20 times.
Right. It'll be interesting. And I remember, I covered his brother, Caleb, and when he did, I remember I was a second round game maybe against Sterling. It really impressed me. Like, he hadn't really had to do that. And he steps into this game against Sterling, and they're just getting at it, and he's just throwing darts. And I hadn't hardly seen it at all. But then he stepped up and he's able to do it. And you'll read in, I believe, Thursday's Journal Star, we have Dave Reynolds' story on Caleb Fisher and his brothers, and that's sort of that legacy coming. So, it feels like certainly could. If they're going to win, he has to have a big game.
All right. Wes, let's go back to you. Let's hear your running back.
I'm going to take Snedden. Princeville, I think, is going to obviously going to try to control the ball, make it a short game, get out without anybody getting hurt. Anytime you have a first-round sort of lopsided matchup like that, Snedden, I think, even if he plays a half or something, could have a big game. So,
Stan, how about you?
I'm going Dash.
There he is.
I'm going Dash.
The Dash.
Again, that's one. Yeah, they're gonna. Certainly, they're gonna want to at least hold on to the ball for a little while to keep Greenville off, and of course, Dash can go for 80 yards in one play, and that doesn't hold it for too long. But I'll take that. So
I'm going Dash too. I had Dash.
Yeah.
Stan, we'll go back to you. Finish us off with your wide receiver.
I'm going back to Josiah Meeman. And they're gonna need that target out there. Miles Burke is gonna need to throw the ball up, just let him go and catch it, right? So I'm going for Meeman.
I'm gonna say I have him as well. So Wes.
Me too. I was fluctuating between Springer and Meeman.
Okay.
Because I think that, as he alluded to. He did it too. That Farmington shootout kind of like, maybe it's Springer, but I feel like, again, it's kind of like with Caleb Fisher. If Washington was going to win that game, you have to have your big players play big. That sounds cliched, it is, but in high school, it's definitely true.
Yeah.
It's very rare in high school football that you win a big game without your best players having big games.
Right.
It might happen in basketball. It might happen but Meeman's got to make plays for them to beat Yorkville.
He's got to have minimum double-digit targets.
Right. Yep.
Okay, Wes, before we sign off here, our first-round coverage, Friday night, where do we have guys at?
We got Dave Reynolds will be at Washington Providence.
Okay.
And then I believe Stan will be over in Princeville. I think that's our only coverage on Friday.
And Saturday?
Dave and Minian will be at the JCA Metamora game.
Okay.
Then we have Stan in Eureka, is that right?
Going to Eureka, yeah.
Yep. And then we have Norm Ulrich going to step over to Farmington to cover that for us. Check out the game.
And I will be at in Elmwood for Princeton at the Trojans. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at PJ Star Sports. Join the conversation, hashtag PGS Preps.
Got football stuff all week.
All week.
Yep. Big time of year.
So for sports editor Wes Huett, small school football beat writer Stan Morris, our producer Matt Dayhoff, I'm your host Adam Duvall. Bye for now.